Hello, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. I'm your host, Michma Bersahan. On the News Mongolia today, draft resolution on the development plan of Mongolia for 2026 submitted. The spring meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the Mongol Bank took place. 92% of teenagers are active on social media, prompting the government to propose usage restrictions. For the news, stay tuned. Mongolia has submitted its development plan for 2026, setting ambitious targets to reduce poverty, increase economic freedom, and modernize public governance. Centered around the four key policy areas: regional development, human development, economic reform, and good governance, the plan aims to raise GPT per capita to over $8,000, maintain 6% economic growth, and cut the poverty rate by 5% within the next year.
On April 30th, 2025, the first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Development of Mongolia, Gantumur Lofsnyam, submitted a draft resolution to the Chairman of State Grid-Khoral Amurbaysalan Dashtsevik. The draft outlines the development plan for Mongolia in 2026, designed in line with the government's 2024 to 2028 action program, which includes policies on regional development, human development, economic growth, and governance, upholding human rights. During the submission, Gantumur emphasized that the core aim of the 2026 development plan is to achieve economic freedom driven by a people-centered development approach. Key reforms will focus on budget expenditures, civil service, the National Wealth Fund, and state-owned enterprises, all to reduce poverty. The development plan includes the following objectives. Under the regional development policy, economic freedom will be tailored to the unique characteristics of each region. The human development policy will focus on reducing poverty and inequality while promoting the health and education of Mongolian citizens. The economic policy aims to improve the business environment and encourage a free economic based on people-centered development principles. The governance policy upholding human rights will see the integration of artificial intelligence at all government levels to create citizen-focused public services. The successful implementation of these policies is expected to sustain economic growth at about 6% in 2026, raise GDP per capita to $8,090, and reduce the poverty rate by 5%.
The spring meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, held annually, took place in Washington, D.C., USA. This year's meeting discussed topics such as global economic uncertainty, the trade policy of the United States, and the debt issues facing developing countries.
The International Monetary Fund has revised its 2025 global economic growth forecast from 3.3% down to 2.8%. Economists attribute this downgrade to trade tensions and policy uncertainty caused by U.S. President Donald Trump's import tariffs. While the IMF predicts that this crisis will persist in the medium term, global attention is increasingly focused on how to minimize the impact of the downturn, manage the energy transition, and meet rising consumption demands.
Due to the trade war, uncertainty has arisen not only in Mongolia but also across the region and the world, leading to significant costs. Uncertainty creates expenses in all areas: international economics, finance, and budgeting, and that's why Mongolia needs to be prepared according to the recommendation. Developing countries with small economies are bound to feel the ripple effects. When foreign products are restricted, domestic demand increases. As a result, inflation driven by internal demand is likely to rise. For Mongolia, this could translate into indirect economic impacts.
As economic uncertainty increases, capital flows are shifting towards gold. Additionally, major global powers led by the United States are actively seeking channels to extract energy and battery resources. As a result, international analysts have pointed out that investment in this sector is slowing down.
We just met with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and are currently discussing the allocation of around $1 billion towards Mongolia's energy sector. We also had a meeting with the governor of the central bank and other officials, reaching a mutual agreement to cooperate on investment in the mining sector and to move forward with intergovernmental agreements. The private sector is currently facing the most difficult conditions, which means greater attention must be given to supporting it. Naturally, the key to supporting the private sector lies in the financial market, the institutions that provide financing. So, the question is, how can we keep the financial market strong? In such challenging times, it's crucial to maintain a resilient financial market that doesn't fall into crisis to support the private sector. This issue is being discussed with particular clarity and urgency.
At the IMF meeting, member countries were urged to take swift action to reduce trade tensions. This, in turn, is expected to eliminate the economic uncertainty caused by U.S. import tariffs and address issues such as trade conflicts, debt pressures, financial instability, and governance challenges.
Amid rising concerns, our teenagers' growing dependence on social media, with 92% of adolescents actively using platforms like Facebook for both academic and personal communications, Mongolia's Ministry of Education has proposed legislation to ban social media access for children under 16 to reduce screen addiction and exposure to harmful content.
Over the past 5 years, internet and social media usage have surged among teenagers, with 92% now actively using platforms such as Facebook. Rather than using them merely for casual communication, students increasingly rely on Facebook Messenger for all forms of interaction, sharing school assignments, coordinating study sessions, and exchanging information.
We usually discuss our English assignments over Facebook. We communicate and exchange information that way. Mostly, we get all our updates from the class group chat. Sometimes our English teacher also joins in through there.
I'm 13 years old. I've probably been using Facebook for around 7 years. I usually search for school-related stuff there. My class has 33 students, and all of them are on Facebook. If we don't collect their phones, they spend most of their time in that environment. But being active on Facebook also means they are exposed to unfiltered content outside of class. That's why I believe it's necessary to impose some limits on its use. In response to the growing concern over excessive screen time and exposure to harmful content, the Ministry of Education has proposed a law that would prohibit children under 16 from using platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and Twitter. The goal is to reduce online risks and phone dependency. The draft law will be submitted to the Ministry of Justice and Home Affairs within the next month.
The legal concept of the draft has already been submitted and is expected to be approved this week. Once that's done, the actual legislation will be drafted, and related documents, research reports, and public feedback will be gathered before they are submitted to Parliament.
Currently, most schools rely on Facebook for communication. To address this, a dedicated educational platform is being developed to handle attendance, student grades, and even curriculum details. Funding will be partially covered through a portion of each school's per-student budget.
We have opted for a public-private partnership approach, allowing schools to independently sign contracts with tech providers. A school will have the freedom to choose the system that best suits them.
хэлбэр рүү орсон.
When I log in, I can see all my classes. As a Mongolian language and literature teacher, I am also serve as a teacher for grades 6A, 6G, and 6D. As a homeroom teacher for grade 8A, my interface looks a bit different being a homeroom teacher. For instance, if I'm teaching an elective to grade 12 students, I can simply create a class group and add those students directly. Following similar initiatives globally, countries like Australia have already seen positive outcomes. In November of last year, Australia banned social media access for children under 16, which has reportedly led to a reduction in youth-related crimes. If Mongolia's proposed law is approved by parliament during its upcoming autumn season, it could take effect by the next academic year.
Now, let's take a look at Mongolian current affairs.
The Department of Sports and Physical Education of the capital city of Mongolia and the Mongolian Cycling Federation will jointly organize the public event Ulaanbaatar Cycling 2025 at Sukhbatar Square on May 10, 2025. This event aims at cultivating the culture and practice of bicycle use among the residents of Ulaanbaatar. During the event, competitions and races will be held among professional cyclists and amateur participants. Additionally, there will be presentations by cycling clubs, sales of bicycles and accessories, repair and maintenance services, and information sessions on green loans. Specifically, the balance bike competition for children will be held in 2 categories, and the road cycling competition will be held in 7 categories. In the balance bike category for children aged 4 to 5, participants will race over a distance of 200 meters. In the road cycling competition, cyclists will compete in the following categories: elite, youth, amateur, and masters. Winners will be selected in each category. Cyclists participating in the road cycling race will compete over 20 laps, covering a total distance of 30 to 40 kilometers. The organizers emphasize that the Ulaanbaatar Cycling 2025 public event holds significant importance in supporting government policy on the development of physical education and sports, promoting healthy and proper lifestyles among the public, increasing citizen engagement, popularizing cycling as a public sport, encouraging children and youth to engage in cycling sports, and nurturing the next generation of cyclists.
Here are the currency exchange rates provided by the Mongol Bank. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We will see you next week with more news and updates. Have a great weekend.